Luckily, there aren't too many books on this list. These are my worst books of 2024, and I did a video about this halfway through the year, so if you want to check out in more detail the first 6 books on this list, they will be up there. However, I will quickly mention them here. Editing Abby is not going to like this one because I don't own any of these anymore. The worst one, The Cat Who Caught a Killer. This is awful, this is poorly written, it's inconsistent, and on top of that, the author is so clearly a right-wing Tory. They just, oh. Please go and see my original rant. Book 2 and 3, The Luminaries and the Hunting Moon by Susan Dennard. I only read the second one because I already owned it, and Luminaries was a very quick read for me. These are bad. Poorly written, very childish, even though they're intended for YA. Extra childish. Not for me. The Patient by Teri. The disappointment. I have loved every single YA thing from Teri I have ever read in my life. Audiobooked this one from NetGalley. What was that? No. Soundless by Richelle Mead is of its time. This one isn't as bad as some of the others, but it's very of its time. It's writing about enslaved and deaf people, and I just think it would have been done very differently and much better. In today's modern environment there are a lot of issues with it, so it got a low rating because of that. And lastly, for the ones that were 6 months ago, One You All Might Hate Me For is A Study in Drowning by Reid. Dear God. No. No. The intent, I enjoyed some of the messaging, but it was bad. Then for the new ones in the second half of the year, so one isn't too egregious, it's just fine. Medical Robotics Breakthrough. I listened to this via audiobook, but it's actually initially released as a magazine. It's intended for children, it has some basic information. This just was lower than 3 stars, so it's mentioned, but One that's been unhauled to carry is D by Michel Faber. This was supposed to be a really great kind of homage to Narnia and to books of its ilk, and instead I just thought this was poorly written. I did not enjoy it. It was trying to be iconic and classic and timeless, and instead it became predictable and boring, and lots of plot points that were introduced that just weren't then utilised later on, and I wondered what the point of them were. So this one, unfortunately, wasn't for me, which was really disappointing. Loosely based on a made-up story by James Blunt. This I hated. Really like Blunt's music, have always enjoyed him as a person on talk shows and stuff, but this memoir is supposedly simultaneously a memoir and also him just making stuff up to make a better story, and I have discovered that I do not like that. It needs to be fiction or non-fiction. I don't want a mix of the two. I want to know what's real and what's not. My little neurodivergent brain can't figure it out from context clues. If there even are any context clues, I can't tell you. I don't know. So I did not enjoy this, which was disappointing, but it is an incredibly quick read. So, and last, and not actually least is still The Cat Who Caught a Killer, is The Bitter Trade by Piers Alexander. This one was interesting. I learnt a lot historically about that time period, but the constant poor writing of women reminded me of Ken Follett's Pillars of the Earth. Everyone hates me in that video. The men are fine, but the second that any women are introduced to the story, they're just sex objects, and that was really disconcerting to read about as a woman. Like, it just felt weird. The rest of the story was fine. Like, I probably would have given it a 3 otherwise, but the poor writing about the women did drop it down below that 3-star rating and puts it in my worst books of the year. And that's it. Those are my worst books of 2024. Thankfully it is a very small stack, even though I don't have any of them left to hold up despite reading a lot of these physically. Please let me know if you've read any of these down below and if you deeply disagree with any of my opinions of them. I know that some of these are really beloved books and series. I understand reading is subjective for everyone, so there's no hate, no judgment here. If you loved any of these, I totally can understand and see why. They just weren't for me. Thank you so much for watching, folks, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!